Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's not Spawn year. It is day 63 of my comic review video day calendar. Jason is joining me once again to talk about another Batman comic, because it's nothing but Batman all through March, and we are still in the beautiful state of Wisconsin, and Jason is still in a basketball tournament, so that's why we are still on my phone and doing this guerrilla style. I picked this one because Jason really likes manga, and this is one of the only manga things in my collection. And Jason, I don't remember how I wound up with this.
Oh, you just did.
Yeah, I think this came maybe out of a big random lot of Batman comics that I bought.
Yeah.
I used
You were getting lots of lots.
Yeah, I used to buy out a lot of collections, which I've talked about on the show, but I also sometimes would get like themed random boxes, be like all DC, all Marvel, but I also found some that were all of one character, and I bought a big box of Batman once, and I kept once or twice, and I kept what I wanted, and I sold the rest, and I think this might have come out of that. I think I hung on to it just because it was unusual, and I hadn't seen it before. So this is Batman Death Mask number 2. This is a 4-issue miniseries written and drawn by Yoshinori Natsumi, and I wish we had the first issue. I mean, I wish we had all of it. Maybe at some point I'll read this in digital or try to get the rest of it, and we could review the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I only have issue 2, and I'm only reviewing things on the show that I own, so we figured, well, maybe this will read okay by itself. We've been kind of playing that game this year and trying to see what things actually read well on their own and which ones don't. What was this? What was it like reading this without the introductory issue, Jason?
I mean, it kind of felt like a first issue. I wasn't expecting it. It actually did read pretty well on its own. Especially at the beginning. I knew what was happening from the beginning. It doesn't really feel like a second issue.
Yeah, not until you get to about 2/3 of the way through,
Yeah.
and we realize that all of the Batman origin, while he is training at a dojo stuff at the beginning is flashback.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't totally sure if that was all background material or if that was the story.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we jump back to present day and we realize that, we are hip deep in the middle of a mystery about a serial killer.
Yeah.
And all of this informs what has been set up before. So the basic setup for this book is there's, like I said, there's a serial killer that Batman is investigating. It seems to have something to do with a dojo that he trained at in Japan when he was originally training to be Batman. There is a death mask involved that was hanging over a building at the dojo. There's a big mystery as to whether that is really a supernatural thing and how it's related to the villain with this. There's a girl that, if I'm understanding it right, is the same girl that was at the dojo at the beginning of the comic.
I think.
Who was at a party when the serial killer strikes, or while Batman and Gordon are in the middle of investigating the serial killer, and she is missing now, and Batman's trying to figure out who she is, and then or where she is, and then the big reveal at the end of this is she is actually around and wearing a mask herself, and is mixing it up in the middle of all of this.
Maybe, I don't know. It kind of feels like we don't know who it is.
Or is it? Yeah, is it ambiguous as to whether that's actually her?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and start looking at some of the art here. Jason, just overall, what were your first impressions of this book?
Really my first impressions were kind of weird.
What's weird about it?
It's just not, I don't know, the more I, am used to it, the more it's, just kind of normal. But, I don't know.
So it's won you over a little bit?
It's won me over a bit, but it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of different than what I'm used to reading. With manga.
Yeah, it's pretty traditional from what little experience I've had with mangas, I think. I mean, it doesn't look that far away from a couple other, earlier mangas that I've read, or things, before the last decade, last 15 years. This comes out in 2008.
Yeah, and, art styles have definitely changed in the past, 10 years.
Yeah.
15 years. And I
compare? Like, what's so different about it from what you're used to? Like, can you give me any sense of?
I don't know. I feel like newer manga comics are more, and this is definitely more of like a serious manga as well. This is more
And you
of
read
like a
more kind of
serious-
comedies.
Yeah, comedies and dramas and stuff. And I feel like more of what I'm reading, and that's like more like new in the past like 5-10 years, is more like cutesy.
Sure.
I don't.
And I tend to avoid that kind of stuff for the most part.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's mainly what I read.
I have
so-
actually read a couple of Batman mangas, or parts of them anyway. I've read all of Child of Dreams, but it was like 10 or 11 years ago.
Oh.
Or more. We either did a recommend on that, Vince and I, or I reviewed it a long time ago. I forget. I want to revisit that at some point. And this is not that far away from the art style of that, if memory serves, but that does get a little bit weirder and more out there.
Yeah.
But this may too. Like, there is, again, maybe a supernatural component to this.
Yeah,
There's kind of a question there, but that got into some real surreal, almost drug trippy territory.
but this definitely feels like 2008 manga. Like you can. I don't know. It's very like I was thinking very like Death Note.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
And
Which
that's
is around the same period.
that's the kind of Japanese style I've come to really prefer.
Yeah, and that's not the style that I prefer. So it's kind of
Oh, okay. Strange.
well, cause that kind of art style is closer to art style, like because it's more like broody and atmospheric.
I think maybe that's why I feel at home with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I really like his shadow work. There's a nice contrast with lights and darks on different pages depending on the mood that he's trying to set. And I like this full page spread here. There's a lot of good visual storytelling in this book. You commented when you started looking at it last night before I read it, a little bit wordier than what you're used to in a manga.
Yeah. It's also the word balloons and stuff are very different than what I'm used to. Like
They're kind of just standard American word balloons.
yeah, which is kind of weird. Like I'm used to I'm used to more like just little text that people are saying that you should look at, and then other people in the background. Like I'm also used to more people.
Oh,
Just
okay.
in the because I mean most of what I read is like high school dramas and stuff. So there are a lot of people.
You're used to a big supporting
in a-
cast.
yeah, and just a lot of people in the background, and so there will be a lot of people just saying things in the background that you don't need to read, but
Okay.
it'll. But I didn't see that here at all, and I don't know. It's just kind of different.
I think it might be even slightly disingenuous to straight up call this a manga, considering, I mean, it is and it isn't, right? Like, it's formatted like manga. It's written and drawn by a Japanese artist who had done quite a bit for shonen. Nothing I had heard of, but just because I'm not into this stuff, but is pretty well liked and acclaimed over there. But it is. But the reason I say it is and it isn't is it was commissioned by American DC Comics.
Yeah.
So like this is not a thing that's put out in Japan even through DC in the first place. Like all the credits at the back, start right away with Dan Didio, senior, executive editor. So I mean, like this is, as far as I can tell, commissioned for America to try to bring this art style and maybe more awareness to manga through something that American readers are already familiar with. And I really appreciate that kind of thing, because when I first, not that I've read a lot, but like I'm not as put off by manga as I used to be. Like I can sit down and read one now.
Yeah.
But the sensibilities of, I don't want to say the genre, but the medium and just Japanese sensibilities in general with storytelling, for a long time, I had a hard time kind of sinking my teeth into them. And so if you give me something like with this, or like with the Spawn manga, which is quite good.
There's a Spawn manga.
Yes, and I wish I hadn't sold it with the rest of my collection so you could read it, but maybe I can find it in digital or find some way for you to read it at some point, Jason.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Did you do it in Spawn Year at all?
I did.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's a lot of fun. It doesn't take itself very seriously. It's real cartoony, and it kind of, not to just review that again because it's not Spawn Year, but that kind of plays it like a Japanese cartoon or something, but like aimed more at kids.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is like it's got a really fun redeemer, and it's got a really fun overkill. But yeah, I'll show you that at some point. It's a little violent, but sort of like a hyper stylized sort of violent. You could definitely read it before I let you read some other Spawn stuff, I think. But yeah, so like I said, I am very at home with a thing like this, and like you said, pretty easy to just jump right into. Let's talk about story a little bit. So Jason, Bruce Wayne is calling himself what?
I forgot. It's like
He's George. He's George. What is it? Something Bridge. Woodbridge. Yeah. And at first, now this was a thing that you obviously would get right away if you had already read the first issue. But at first I was like, oh, is this like a different character?
Yeah.
That we've decided is Batman in this particular continuity? No, it is Bruce Wayne, but he's going by an alias, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's George Woodbridge, and he's gone to this dojo. This is all the flashback material at the beginning, of course, in order to hone his skills and try to become intimidating, and so that he can fight crime. And identity ideas with this, Jason. There's kind of a question as to whether we have a literal like demon that takes over Bruce Wayne and creates Batman.
Yeah.
I want to say it's literalized, or there's kind of, like I said, kind of a mystery as to whether or not that actually is literalized. And there's a fable that is discussed related to this mask that one of the guys at the dojo has found as he's been going through a lot of ancient artifacts that are, it's kind of a fun plot device where they've got this warehouse of just all these artifacts, and this guy's gotten obsessed with old things. That's one of the themes with this book, is the idea that old things should not just be thrown away and for the sake of progress. And so you have this like city that is developing around this dojo, and it's kind of sad that we're losing our tradition and heritage. And this guy is talking about the importance of the past and keeping it alive. And there's this fable with the mask that obviously naturally parallels the Batman, the traditional Batman mythology.
Yeah.
About a guy whose parents are both murdered in a war, and who puts on this mask in order to fight crime, and just like the or try to fight wars and try to make it so that nobody goes through that again, like Bruce Wayne does as Batman. And the legend is supposed to be that he puts all of his skills into the mask. So if you put the mask on, it's sort of like The Mask, like Jim Carrey's The Mask. If you put the mask on, I mean, sort of, not really, but because it doesn't like lessen your inhibitions or anything, but it infuses you with power like that does.
Yeah.
And this is a Bruce Wayne who, at the beginning, is kind of obsessed with the idea of power in a really kind of unnerving sort of way.
Yeah.
This is a different take on this character.
Yeah, and I really like that because it's like a different. It's like if Batman was a manga.
Well, yeah, that's it.
So you're saying if he was a manga character
in the first place,
this is what he would like. His backstory would be.
Yeah. There's a really interesting argument against Batman in this, and I kind of wonder, I want to read the rest of this, I kind of wonder how it all shakes out at the end, because the book seems to be saying the problem with what Batman is doing is that he is he's going out and looking for trouble instead of doing kind of the more Zordon Power Ranger thing where you don't escalate a fight, you wait for evil to happen and then you attack it. And this is a Batman that's going out trying to find it because he wants to change the world. He wants to, and then there's that kind of standard, because I like how old school Batman this is, while also bringing in some Eastern sensibilities to it.
Yeah.
So at the same time as the Batman, Bruce Wayne's attitude in the past feels a little bit different from what we're used to, where he's like, I want power. It's not just about intimidation. It's not just about theatricality. It's, if I'm the most powerful person, I can force these bad things not to happen. And what happens with power, it tends to corrupt. So the fear is that Batman would become the very villains that he's trying to stop, right?
Yeah.
And so like I said, it's very traditional in that this is a Batman who is going to is going to potentially create his own villains.
Yeah.
Not just in so there's a question of, is he going to make himself a villain, but also in looking for trouble, is he making villains outwardly also? And so he has a mentor, a sensei, who says the most useful skill is to learn when to not fight. Of course,
yeah,
it's that ancient bit of wisdom, and Bruce Wayne is not interested in that. He wants to, again, change the world. And so what do you think is really happening? Do you think that the mask is actually a supernatural thing? That, like, Batman is a secondary like entity that takes him over when he fights crime? Or do you think all of that is ultimately just fable and just metaphor?
I think that it'll turn out that actually is like a supernatural thing.
I tend to agree. I kind of think that's where we're going with this.
Especially since this is made by a manga story writer. I feel like that's the type of thing that a manga story writer would do. Especially of this kind.
Where you're likely to literalize the fable.
Yeah.
And have a cult or magic stuff. I think the biggest piece of evidence that there is some truth to what's happening with the mask, and this would really change what Batman is,
yeah,
which is the most interesting idea to me, is that when there's a place while Bruce Wayne's at the dojo, where suddenly his personality seems to have shifted.
Yeah.
And everybody's starting to get kind of scared of him, where he's not just driven like he was before and trying to be the best at more. He's getting a little bit more rough and tumble, and he's starting to look kind of more mean.
Yeah.
And the question is, what changed his attitude?
Yeah. And I also like how, like, fantasy-ish this is.
Yeah.
With Batman. Because, that's something you don't see all the time.
Yeah, I think I would almost be disappointed if there wasn't that fantasy component.
Yeah.
Especially because you would need some sort of explanation for that personality shift if it isn't that.
Right.
I also like the parallels to Gargoyles.
Yeah.
I don't mean the Disney show, but I mean Gargoyles in Gotham City, where you have this mask that is more like a gargoyle than it is like a bat. So it has horns. It's like I said, a demon, and it creates what looks like a bat. And at the end, there is a guy who is full on wearing that Batman has to fight, and we don't know what's going on with that either.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like those guys at the end. Also, I don't really like this Batman suit.
Oh, you don't like the Batsuit?
Yeah,
I did want to talk about that. I think it looks pretty cool.
I do like the Batmobile though.
Again, with the identity thing, I like that Bruce is kind of separating out three different entities.
Yeah,
So when he puts on his Batsuit, he says, "I'm not Bruce. Right now, I'm not Bruce Wayne. I'm not George Woodbridge. I'm Batman."
yeah,
And he makes like a real distinction in his head with all of that, which again is a bit of a departure from from a lot of classic Batmans, where he thinks of himself as Batman all the time, and
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne is the actual mask. Where now it's like he almost morphs into different identities.
yeah,
And I would love to see this explore the difference between Bruce Wayne as he is now and who George Woodbridge was.
yeah,
Like how has that character changed? The guy who was all about power and pretty easily influenced and maybe could become something really scary.
yeah,
And maybe this is a wiser man now. Maybe he's gotten over some of that.
yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, let's take a look at this Batsuit. What don't you like about it?
I don't know. It's too muscular.
Oh, okay. So it's not the suit design. So because I mean, it's a pretty traditional
Yeah,
Batsuit.
It's just weird because it's like a bat suit in manga, and you would.
It's
I feel like I was expecting something different.
Being a Batman.
is the problem that it's too American, that it's too Western.
Yeah, like when he's in the Batsuit, he doesn't look Japanese. I mean, he's not Japanese,
He doesn't look Japanese enough to you.
but I mean, he's not Japanese, but he is. But he just doesn't look. I don't know.
Well, the
it feels
character
like-
isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, the character isn't Japanese, but like I feel like I don't know, like he looks manga when he's Bruce Wayne, but then when he puts on his Batsuit, he just looks American. He
It's
just
sort of
looks
like
an
if-
American Batman.
It's sort of like if Batman in The Batman, the TV show,
Yeah,
didn't look like Jackie Chan anymore when he put on his mask,
yeah,
but he still kind of looks like Jackie Chan.
yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think it's still manga-esque enough. It's really funny that you're having sort of the reaction that I might have a long time ago before I'd looked at very much Japanese stuff, but because it's not Japanese enough, where you're like, oh, I don't like this. It just looks like a Batman comic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm liking the kind of slight tweaks of it. We also should probably mention that this reads right to left,
It
which
does.
is one of the things that certainly makes it a manga. And you thought the format of it was weird, just
Yeah.
the size.
That was one.
Oh, it's an American comic. I mean, like it's it's comic as opposed to a manga comic.
Yeah, but
Because,
still
like-
laid out like a manga.
Yeah, it's laid out like a manga, and you said it was like a full size manga, like a full size American comic. Like,
Yeah, it makes it feel almost like a prestige format comic. Where like
Yeah.
when you get a regular sized book like this for an American book, but then in Black Label or something, we get like a big prestige format thing.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of that, where you take
Yeah.
the smaller like pocketbook format of a lot of manga,
Yeah.
and then you blow it up to this. It makes me kind of want to see more manga like this.
I don't know. It just feels less American when it does that, or
Yeah.
more American when it does that.
Yeah, but it's just fun to get the panels larger.
It is fun to do that. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Although, aren't there like Shonen Jump magazines that are like that?
I think
Am I wrong
Shonen
about
Jump
this?
magazines are that size, but I'm not sure.
Where they're
I
flat
haven't
comics
actually read a
and just regular American size.
Shonen Jump magazine. I've only I read manga digital, and I also read manga with like
And then they'll do the collections.
trades. I
That
can't
are-
remember what they call the trades.
Yeah, I don't know what that's called either.
It's escaping me.
We don't know anything. We're learning. That's the point of this. The other thing I wanted to mention thematically with this that's interesting. It's always odd talking about just a piece of something, but I also am intrigued by the kind of MO of the serial killer who is removing people's faces. So we have, which is gruesome, I know, but at least we don't see it happen.
Yeah.
But there is, I don't know how to read it yet because I haven't looked at the rest of this. But again, it's all about an identity thing. It's all about masks. It's all about who is Batman when he wears his mask versus when he doesn't. What is the real mask? That kind of classic Batman question. And then you have a serial killer that is taking faces, and I'm sure that is somehow directly related to Batman's identity crisis.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention that real quick. I think the action in this is quite good.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the action. And it doesn't lose the
Whoosh and clang and dun dun duns of just normal manga. Because
Well,
that's just a thing.
And American comics also.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we don't have onomatopoeia in our books and in Batman books.
Yeah, especially Batman.
But I was going to ask you, do you see quite a bit of that in the manga that you read?
Oh, yeah. At least more of the... Yeah.
I don't know, man. I like his faces a lot.
Yeah.
Real expressive, a lot of depth, bits of sweat here and there.
Yeah.
About this, Jason.
we
This is a fun one. I definitely want
mentioned
to.
everything, I think.
I definitely want to take a look at.
I
more.
like how like I feel like someone do you think someone would try to read this the wrong way?
Yeah, if they're
And then
not.
it would stop! This is the back of the book.
Yeah, in America, if you've never looked at a manga before.
Yeah.
What these things don't tell you, though, very often is, so they'll say read it from right to left instead of left to right.
Yeah.
But they won't tell you also read the panels that way too.
Oh, this one does.
Oh, does it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
This one does. It says
I didn't look at that whole blurb. but-
it says
Oh, that's nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it gives it to you in letters. That's kind of cool. No, this kind of thing is definitely confusing to somebody that is just familiar with American comics.
Yeah.
Where it's like, wait, why is the back in the front, and how do I read this? And so I certainly appreciate that. But also, I've seen mangas, like actual honest to God mangas, also do this.
Yeah. The Shonen Jump app does that.
Oh, does it?
If you try to read it on the wrong side, it goes like it gives you just like a history of like manga being ported to like America and like
Oh, cool.
stuff and it's really cool.
When you look at that app, do you swipe right or left to read through a book?
So, well, you swipe right. So you do go left.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, because it would be kind of odd if you flip the same way, but it goes backwards.
right.
So I'm glad it does that. I think I might have enjoyed this more than you did.
Yeah, I
It's
think you did.
Kind of the sense I'm getting.
I think you did, but I still enjoyed it. I don't think I would read. I don't know. It's only 4 issues, so I might read the rest of it if you ever read the rest of it.
Yeah, I definitely like to do that. Well, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back again tomorrow with a totally different Batman title, doing 31 different Batman titles throughout the month of March. And we've picked a really interesting looking one for you. That is the only clue that I'll give about it, because we have already picked it, is that like this, it is also in black and white.
Oh,
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.
go ahead.
Happy reading.